Nice. Okay. Hello everyone. لحظة, let me record. Let me start the recording. Very based. Okay. Mad Lad, are you recording, حبيبي? Nice.
Beautiful.
Based. Hell yeah. Amazing. I love you. You're amazing. Hell yeah. Okay. Hello everyone. Hello. Welcome if you are watching us on Twitch, if you're watching us on the YouTube video or here on Discord. How are we doing, everyone? I hope you guys are having a wonderful night. Today is gonna be a very, very special day. We have a special event with a special guest, Jessica Gonzalez. I've read a few articles about her and her amazing accomplishments and her activism and what she does. And it's incredibly. I wrote aspiring, but Mad Lad taught me that aspiring is different than inspiring. It's inspiring. Extremely based. Hey Jessica, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm good.
Hey.
Thanks for having me.
Amazing.
Excited to
Would
be
you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. My name's Jessica Gonzalez. I am a former Blizzard employee and newfound organizer for labor movements.
Nice. Amazing. Okay. Very based. All right. Today in the chat, you guys, in event text, you guys, or in Twitch, all of you here are able to ask her anything. And yeah, we can start this. It's gonna be an AMA, so you can ask her anything about her and her things. I'm gonna start with my own question. After reading everything that you've been through, how are you feeling? Like, holy shit, it's to unionize, to start like a movement like this. How are you feeling? Huh?
Weird is the only thing that I could come up with, just because I feel like everything happened so quickly. From like the news of the lawsuit and then the first walkout, and it's kind of just been this ongoing, one thing after the next. It's almost like every week there's something new to talk about. But yeah, I'm feeling good. I have been helping Raven a lot recently, and just helping with ABK and even like Ubisoft, and just kind of getting in touch with everyone and trying to make sure that we can all collectively make a better industry for people.
Yeah, very nice. Amazing.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go with the questions we have in our what do you call it? Our Discord server. We have guilds, like many communities and many people, and we have a feminist guild and a legal guild who thoroughly investigated and thoroughly had like a huge interest in your journey, let's say. And there are like from its users, they've already prepared a few questions. I'm gonna ask them right now.
Sure.
So Garrett 3.14 asks, what was the chain of escalation you observed at the time, and now that you've had this experience, would you have done anything differently, or have any recommendations for others who may be going through analogous situations elsewhere?
Yeah, that's a great question. The chain of events, it just so happened that, before the news of the lawsuit broke, Blizzard was kind of already in a PR type issue with the Blitzchung incident that happened. So when I had just joined the company, it was kind of like right before that happened. And then it was almost as if leadership picked the wrong resolution for each thing that was going on, and employees weren't feeling heard. So we were all kind of complaining internally in like our Slack channels, and just discussing compensation, really trying to talk to each other and figure out like where the grievances are, because no one really felt heard. And then when the news of the lawsuit broke, it kind of just like mass agitated everyone. So it was just this huge event that was just super traumatic. Like, all of us went through trauma together. A lot of us relived trauma. We were gaslit by leadership, and then continuously kind of Like it's almost like they just wanted to brush it off or stop talking about it. But the employees collectively, we collectively decided to not stop talking about it because it was really important to us. And it just kind of escalated from there. I feel like we talked to press, we had walkouts, we just kind of kept the public and the community in the know of everything that was going on, and that's really what was helpful. One thing I would have done differently is yeah, it just sometimes I don't even remember everything that happened because so much happened so quickly. I would say one thing I would do differently would probably just to maybe take a moment before reacting on Twitter, because I am very new to Twitter and internet like fame in that way, I guess. So I've had moments where I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't have tweeted that, or, a lot of people come to me and they're like, why did you tweet this? And I don't know, I'm just a very transparent person, probably to a fault. I like transparency. I like, saying how I'm feeling all the time, even when it's not great. So yeah, that's the one thing I would do different, is just to kind of take a break and not like be a reactionary person online.
Yeah, Twitter is a huge, like a toxic
Yeah.
environment, and it's damn. And holy shit, then your like workplace environment at the time of the escalation,
Yeah.
damn, also was very toxic. There's a question in Twitch chat
Sure.
from Lana Day and Night. She asks, "Do you have any tips for young organizers?"
Tips for young organizers. Ooh, I love this question. Yes. Just most of your organizing is built on relationships. So like, when you're trying to organize your workplace, you have to kind of think about it as, it doesn't matter where you or the person you're speaking to politically align. You all need to align as workers, because, that's at the end of the day, a union is a collective of workers. And, even though you don't necessarily agree on everything, you can agree collectively, like, hey, would you like to get paid more? Would you like better healthcare? It's like all of these things that you can, you know, talk about and just kind of get how they're feeling, talk about their grievances in the workplace. Don't just talk about yours, because it's harder to lead in emotionally and connect with someone if you're just talking about yourself the entire time. So really ask, what could the company do better for you? How would you, feel if you were supported in this way? Or how can we help in any way, really? Unfortunately for us, we had a huge agitation event where people were like really upset with leadership already. So it kind of just sparked this huge change and movement, and people were so ready to organize. But I think in a smaller company, just having conversations with your coworkers and having those interpersonal relationships is very important too. And even like remote, you can do it through Slack. Like we had a Slack channel that was called ABK Allyship, and we just communicated with each other, like, what does it mean to be an ally? What does it mean to be anti-racist, or just having these deep conversations and educating people. And sometimes they'd get heated, but I think the most important thing was just to remember to not react, to listen and really be empathetic towards one another.
Very nice. Hope that helps, Lana. Amazing. Another question by Garrett. They are asking you about your like experience in game development. What do you think of like microtransactions, loot boxes, and other intentionally, as they put it, addictive mechanics? Corollary to this one, does you, is that the question? Yeah. Consider loot boxes to be a form of gambling?
I consider loot boxes to be a form of gambling. I could definitely see how that would be addictive in a way. I personally never did any kind of like loot box or purchasing or anything. I didn't really get into that as much. But I have worked in projects that had like a gacha system and things like that. I think it's just a way to monetize and continue to make revenue on a game that you ship, and I think it's crazy how far games have grown in that sense, because a long time ago, it was like you had to get everything in one cartridge and that's it. Now you can do like day one patches or continue on iterating on something. And I think you know, a lot of these companies, they think about like the longevity, like how long they want their products to be on the shelf for, and these microtransactions and things like this help keep it engaging and keep it fun and keep it new. And I think that's something that, you know, is cool. And, you know, to some it could be seen as gambling, and I definitely can see how some of it's exploitive. But yeah, I think when done well, it's a good mechanic. And it can definitely be addictive though, just like gaming can, because I've definitely, you know, done so much grinding in gaming, so I get it. Also, with my experience, I started at Activision as a QA tester on Call of Duty Black Ops 3. And then, you know, all the contractors got let go at the end of that project. I moved on to Treyarch and worked on DLC there. I worked on the Zombies team. And then I went to Blizzard as a contractor and I worked on Heroes of the Storm. And then I went indie for a little bit because I was really tired of AAA titles. And I went to a small company called Aftershock that got bought by Fox, that got bought by Disney. So I kind of got sucked back into the AAA industry. And then I went back to Blizzard as a senior test analyst on BattleNet for, you know, and up until I left in December.
Nice. Another a question from the Gaming Guild Master, Gemini. They ask, as a consumer, like continuing with video game questions, as a consumer of video games, what ways what can we do to? How is that question? What can we do to try and help the game industry become a better environment? Yeah. In what ways can we make the gaming industry become a better environment? I can't speak English today for some reason. I apologize.
No, you're doing wonderful. I think the best way to keep, like, you know, game development safe and the gaming industry safe in general is to just call out bad behavior. If you're in a game with someone and you see your friend getting harassed, or like, you know, just calling out that behavior and making sure that like those people are reported. You know, it's such a culture thing in gaming. I feel like if you go into any game in any like general chat, you'll just see a bunch of horrible things that people are saying because they like to troll, right? Like people get gratification on making other people feel bad. So calling that out, correcting that behavior whenever you can, and even holding yourself accountable for that kind of toxic behavior is super important as well. And just makes safer games. It makes safer environments, and it's not as hostile. You know, imagine you're in a COD lobby and you're getting screamed at, but it's work. It's not fun. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. To switch it back a little bit, Gag in the Discord chat asks, how much has a fear of speaking up affected those who are wanting to be involved in your movement? And what sort of method can potential organizers use to inspire those to have the courage to speak up against their employers or those above them, more generally?
Yeah. So, I mean, fear is a huge factor in the movement and everything that's been going on. I mean, I got, you know, retaliated against and pushed out of Blizzard because it was just so. I was waking up every day having panic attacks. Just, it was very uncomfortable. I would say a lot of the people that were really afraid to speak up and were more, you know, DMing me and saying, thank you so much for your voice. I'm very like thankful for you. Were people that were on visas and were scared that they wouldn't get, you know, their visa renewed, or I'm not really sure the process there, but they definitely had something to lose. And I think at the point of my career, I was so tired of everything that the gaming industry had done to myself, my friends, people around me. So just hearing about the lawsuit and everything, I was just so tired and angry. And I used that to just be loud and continue to be loud and speak up for people. And, you know, I would get a lot of messages like, hey, thank you. I'm really thankful for you because you're saying all these things that I can't. And really, I would say if you're starting to organize, just talk to people, and that way, if you choose to use your voice, you know good talking points of things that you can talk about the company that they're not doing well, that you're noticing patterns, and you know women are underpaid notoriously, or you know things like that. But
speaking of that, woman man from the legal guild, the guild master of the legal guild asked What is, in your opinion, the number one issue women face in the gaming industry as a whole?
Number one issue that women in the gaming industry face as a whole is just misogyny. There's no other way to put it. I have worked in the gaming industry for 7 years. I've gotten asked, who had I slept with to get to a senior position, or there's always like alcoholic events or people are drinking and it's like the girls are encouraged to party so the guys have a better time, and it's very uncomfortable. It almost feels like you're in a male dominated field that it's just not designed for you anyway, and you should feel lucky to be there and you should just kind of do your work and not complain. So when I started speaking up, obviously I became the complainer, the problem person. And it just causes people, it was almost like a speed run. Like I was speed running misogyny towards myself because, people were harassing me in work channels and calling people that were defending me white knights, and it was just almost like Gamergate but at work. It's just really, really insane. But yeah, I think the hardest thing is just misogyny, and even if it's jokingly, it's not funny, and it's you're perpetuating this toxic culture and making it unsafe for women.
Mina from the Feminist Guild, Mina Giada, a question similar to the issue at hand, asks you, do you see the problems with sexism in the gaming industry specifically as much more deep and ingrained due to the products being put out? Since it is a media-based industry, what I'm thinking about in particular here is that a lot of the time in media pieces, female characters aren't treated as human as their male counterparts are. How much does this translate into the workplace itself? And would you say that sexism in the games released plays a role in that? Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you think about game design and it's, people that work on these games are writing the narrative and everything that's going into it, right? So, yeah, I mean, if the person who's writing a character arc or something is a misogynistic person, thank you. They're obviously going to have that's going to manifest in the games or in other ways, and yeah, I feel like, in something that's such a male-dominated field, and it's kind of like a best friends club or what the DFEH likes to call a frat boy culture. It's very much non-inclusive, and it's almost like limited to that frat boy culture. And I would love, to have more of that broken out into other creative areas as well.
Damn. One thing asks in the Discord chat, do you personally recommend people still apply for positions at Blizzard, especially for people wanting to get an entry-level position in the industry?
Yeah, so I mean, look, I personally felt like I needed to leave Blizzard for my mental health because I became such a public figure that so many people were watching me, and it just became a huge hostile environment. But that being said, I had a wave of support of wonderful people, and there are wonderful people that work at Blizzard. And, we've done a lot of work in the last 6 months and even over the years to make it a more inclusive place. And I feel like the highlighting of the lawsuit has really helped the employees hold others accountable. And what you're seeing now at Blizzard, it's quite fascinating where, these discussions are had and it's heated and people are angry and they actually reflect on their actions, and they'll talk to others and then get a different grip on the situation and say and apologize. And it's like, I feel like people are more emotionally intelligent there now, which is something that was taboo earlier, in the industry, because nobody wants to talk about feelings. We want to play video games, right? But yeah, I do recommend you apply. I do. I think that there's great people there, and I think great people going there who aren't exhausted like me can make it great. And yeah, please do.
Nice. Okay. Lex in the same Discord chat asks, what can gamers and the general public do to help influence game studios to make changes and stop misogyny, I assume,
Misogyny. Yeah.
in the workplace?
Yeah, so again, holding yourself and your friends accountable is huge. Just not tolerating that kind of behavior. You know, nobody likes to be verbally abused. And just making your spaces inclusive, you know. I don't like, you know, there's some people, quote unquote, ninja, who don't play with women for specific reasons, and it's just like I don't understand that. I feel like, you know, you could have great relationships and you're just choosing not to because of their sex, which is weird. But yeah, I think that just holding each other accountable, you know, making it more inclusive, and towards the businesses, like just keep these kinds of discussions alive, like keep the flame lit, especially on Twitter right now. We're doing a lot of activism towards unionizing the industry across ABK would be great, but we're starting at Raven Software, so just keep the flame lit there, keep talking about it, making sure that we have good working conditions. It's the most important. I know, right?
Nice.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a cease and desist from Ninja.
Based, extremely based. Yeah, fuck Fortnite. I never liked it anyway.
I didn't say
Also,
that.
yeah, I did. It's fine. Okay. Based. A question. I'm gonna merge two questions in one. Konsai asked. First of all, Konsai asked, with Microsoft's recent in Discord chat, with Microsoft's recent acquisition of Activision, do you think that the overall culture will be improved? And what are your general thoughts on the acquisition as a whole? I assume acquisition is like buying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Microsoft purchased Activision Blizzard for $69 billion. And I think that it was a very strategic move where Phil Spencer was like, I have an in to buy this really good, like huge company with a bunch of IPs. So I think he kind of like approached Bobby in a time of turmoil where the company just was getting bad PR and was like, hey, let me buy the company. This is what I'm assuming is going on. But I think Bobby wanted a reason to kind of gracefully bow out. But, you know, employees and others are obviously trying to keep the heat on. But I do think I think the purchase is good for the IPs. I think having the IPs under Microsoft, I think they're going to get the TLC that they deserve and that they need. My concerns with this is, you know, we already have this huge corporation, this huge public entity that's so far removed from the employees that all of this sexual misconduct and harassment and everything that was going on, everyone was like, we didn't see it, we didn't know, even if they did. But it's like you have that level of disconnect there where, you know, you're the executive leadership, you're so removed from the developers, you don't even realize everything that's going on under your nose, and then now you're being acquired by an even bigger company that has even more avenues. It just seems like something that is good for the IPs, but it's like a caution for the workers because it really could just be status quo still, right? We don't know if Microsoft has these same kinds of issues, and with companies this big, I mean, it's bound to happen. There's lots of people, you know, abusers are everywhere. They're in places of power. They have avenues to chase out people that speak up, and it's something really insidious in not just gaming but tech as well. So I'm definitely excited to unionize Microsoft if that if that gets to fruition. But
speaking of that, man from the legal guild asks you about this, which is weird. After the purchase of Microsoft, how would that? What does that mean for like your movement, ABetterABK? What does that mean for your movement? How are you gonna like progress with it, etc.?
yeah, so it doesn't change the, you know, ABK Workers Alliance views. Like we still have the same values, we still have the same goals, and the more people we can get on board with our movement, then the better. Like, we want people to advocate for themselves. It should be workers first, especially in something creative as game development. You're in a creative industry. You want your workers to be happy. They'll make better products, right? And yeah, I mean, it's just such a huge deal and huge company. It'd be interesting to see for sure.
Huh? Nice. Sam asks in the Discord chat, I've heard that crunch time is a big problem in video game industry. What's your experience with crunch time, and do you think it is likely to improve in the future with further unionization?
Yeah, so crunch is notorious in the industry. Crunch happens when you have a set deadline on a product that you need to release in a certain time frame, and it's just not ready. So you're crunching essentially to get all of the code, all of the assets, like everything into the engine, like into the game, and then also having all of that tested. So when crunch happens, developers, all sorts of developers, are working almost always 24 hours, but they cycle them in and out. When I was working at Activision, it was probably the worst crunch culture we had for Black Ops 3. So I was working 14-hour shifts, 5-6 days a week, sometimes 7. It really just depended. Sometimes my lead would be like, "Hey, you've been working too long, take a day off." But yeah, it's exhausting work, and it's unfortunate because it's a result of bad like project management. It's a result of someone, saying, "Hey, here's a deadline," and it's unrealistic, and the executive wants it out that day because money, obviously, right? And now that games can be patched easily, they just want things out quickly versus polished.
Speaking of that, Julius C. Salad from the Legal Guild asks, understanding that the companies and their users are separate, do you ever see the players affecting the attitude of the developers, or vice versa? Or is it just the crunch or work hours?
I don't really see the players affecting the developers too much. I mean, whenever there's bad, press or anything like that, it's obviously hard to do your job when things are going on. I mostly feel bad for our customer service department because I say our like I still work there, but I don't. For the customer service department, because anytime like a scandal happens or anything goes on, they're hit the hardest with people that are saying horrible things to them, and it's like these are the people that are kind of affected by everything that's going on. And punching down is something that happens a lot with these kind of movements, is people, they have so much frustration and passion, and instead of punching upwards towards the people that are actually oppressive, they punch down at other people who are just as equally affected, equally upset, equally passionate. And it's something that I've seen a lot lately with all of the activism and everything. Yeah, I don't know why I went off on that, but hopefully we can get back on track.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I think the idea that players are like shit on the customer service being like extremely critical to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gag asks in chat, do you feel as if there have been any particular multiplayer games in the last little while that have allowed women to feel more comfortable speaking up in voice chats? Overwatch comes to mind as an example. If you feel the same way about it, or another game, which is it about such games that provide the higher level of comfort for women?
This is an interesting question because I play League of Legends, so I'm not in a game that feels safe to me. But I actually have friends that play Overwatch a lot, and they do still receive like misogynistic comments and stuff like that. So it's unfortunate. I mean, it's gonna happen in any game you're playing. People are heated. They say things behind a microphone, because they don't feel like there's any repercussion. But it's hard. Like, sometimes I don't tell people that I'm a woman playing, especially if they want to get on voice comms or anything like that. I just try to avoid it because I don't like drama. Yeah, but
Amber or Ambo from the Guildmaster of the Feminist Guild asks you about like the asks you what have you found to be effective ways of pushing for change within a company? So when it comes to like unionizing, what was like the most effective way for pushing for change?
yeah, so the most effective way of pushing for change is just like I spent a lot of time just educating people on their rights. I was like, you have the right to walk out, you have the right to organize, you have the right to complain about where you work. A lot of people are scared, and especially in the video game industry, because a lot of when you join companies, they have you sign an NDA, which is a non-disclosure agreement. It essentially means you can't talk about anything, and it scares people, and so they don't feel comfortable even speaking out against their employer because they feel like they can just get, retaliated against. And even more so after the allegations from the DFEH, went up with Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, because they were alleged to retaliate. And so it was like almost just being up against this huge entity that's already doing illegal things. So people were really scared at the first walkout. And I just kept educating them on their rights. I got involved with CWA, who's really helpful with like legal counsel and making sure that we all were protected and knew that we were legally in our right to organize and talk to each other about the things that we didn't like about the workplace. And so just keeping those conversations alive is super important. Checking in with people. Continuing also, like, there's something called agitation where, if something happens at the company, you want to highlight that thing and say, hey, here's why this is wrong, or here's what we should do instead. It's kind of like just keeping the discussion open on grievances, things you want to improve. It sparks a lot of passion in people. You get really surprised about how many people actually are excited to organize and help out when it's like for a bigger cause.
Nice. Speaking of that, Gemini from the Gaming Guild asks you, are you optimistic about the future of the gaming industry, given we see like these incidents becoming public, and given the fact that like you guys had to unionize, you guys like you shed public into this like frat boy culture, etc. Are you still optimistic, or how is it going for you?
I am optimistic. I personally a lot of people asked me after I left Blizzard, if I was going to return to the industry, and I'm like, yes, I would absolutely return to the industry, but I feel like there are a lot of things that need to change. One is compensation. I feel like, the reason that you work in games, they use that to kind of pay you low, and you're supposed to feel like grateful that you work in video games, but compensation definitely needs to catch up. And just better treatment for contractors, or even like not using contractors would be great, because the way that contractors are treated in the industry is just awful. And yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful. There's a lot of great people that still work in the industry, and there are people like, I feel like everything that we've done already, like we're not even fully unionized yet, but just the work that we've done with like highlighting issues and like ABetterABK and so many across the industry are watching everything that's happening right now with ABK and Raven especially, and are just kind of using that in their day-to-day. Like, we had Vodeo unionized. They were the first North American studio to unionize because of everything that was going on. They were very inspired by ABK, and it just so happens that they're a smaller studio, so they were able to. But yeah, I think I am optimistic. I think that there's great people, and as long as we keep the conversation going and, keep holding each other accountable, because I guess leadership isn't going to do that, it's the most important thing.
Nice. Your environment, Seattle, Carl, beautiful streamer, by the way. Check them out. You mentioned you mentioned compensation. In BattleNet, our HR shared the compensation study with us. I mean, study, I think. did they share the compensation study with us? Did they share the compensation study with QA as well?
No. So what we did was we had a Blizzard compensation channel, and we had a spreadsheet that we started with just everyone's salary. So we kind of started showing each other our salaries and plugging that in, and so we used that to kind of like argue for better pay. And yeah, we did it ourselves.
Yeah, damn. Another question from the gaming guild. Are boycotts effective? Are the better ways? Are there better ways to make voices heard as a consumer? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is a funny question because I've been getting it since I started this, where people are like, do we play the game? Do we not play the game? And this one conflicts me so hard, right? Because like I myself play video games as escape. And, if you have that option to escape from whatever is like physically or mentally draining you, please do that. I'm not going to ever judge someone for playing a game or not playing a game. That being said, it is actually more expensive for a company to host the server you're playing on, and you don't purchase anything. So if you want to buy a game and not buy any in-game items, that actually helps. Because you're like the money that they pay to keep the server going for all of these players, and then you're not buying any microtransactions or anything like that. So that's a form of protest in itself. I'm never gonna like say do or don't do. But yeah, I mean, do what feels right to you. I've always said every avenue of protest is acceptable if you want to play the game and just talk about everything that's going on. Just having the conversation is so important. I feel like, just keeping it at the top of everyone's mind is just the biggest thing that can help with everything that's going on.
Amazing. A question from the Discord chat from Kitty Cat. Do you think strikes like the one conducted by Raven that caused Warzone to be very visibly lacking QA around a big holiday season and new content release could be effectively leveraged in the future to bring attention to how important the work of QA really is? Yes.
Yeah, I do. I definitely do. I think people are starting to realize that QA is a valuable asset to video game development. When I first started in QA, we were very much siloed away from any other part of development, and we weren't allowed to talk to engineers or designers or anything, or even say that we were a developer. But I feel like now, QA is such a technical field. You have to have really good attention to detail. You have to essentially like scrub the entire game for bugs and defects. So it really is interesting. And I also feel like the consumer and the quality assurance department have a lot in common. We're kind of like a player advocate. Like you want us on the team because we are going to advocate for your best experience in the game. Like we're going to play the game hard and make sure that it is not broken and it is balanced, and you can tell how good a company treats their quality assurance department by the way that their game releases on day one. If their game is super buggy and, like what we saw with the Raven strike, Warzone genuinely suffered because QA they striked, and then Activision Blizzard leadership took QA from other departments and put those onto Warzone, and it was like now all of the products that we're working on were collectively suffering. So
nice. From the gaming guild, last question from there. What games do you recommend? What's your favorite, and what would you recommend to the listeners?
My favorite game is League of Legends. I know, I'm sorry.
No,
I can't,
no.
I know. I've started playing since season 2 and I've just been so addicted to it. But that being said, I only play ARAM now, so I'm a little bit better, right?
That's the excuse.
Yeah.
That's the general excuse.
Yeah, I also really love Animal Crossing. It's such a fun game to just like chill, Oh, and Elder Scrolls Online, because it's an MMO that you can just chill. It's not like stressful. You can just do whatever. I like to sleuth around and sneak around and steal stuff. But yeah.
Hopefully that satisfies the gamers.
Yeah, sorry
All right.
gamers.
Amazing. Let me see. Toot toot. Yeah. From the legal guild. That's not person name. Okay. From the legal guild, there was a big work culture shift when Activision joined Blizzard, which led to many of the issues Blizzard has today regarding their gender discrimination suit. Is that a fear with Microsoft as well, since they bought it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a fear everywhere. I feel like Blizzard already had its own issues before the Activision merger, and Activision had its own issues before they bought Blizzard. So I feel like this is just something that we are slowly seeing happen more because it's just everywhere. Like, I feel like it's just everywhere. I feel like it's just our culture as, in the US of people just having their best friends and having this like frat boy culture, and everyone wants to like push each other's boundaries. And I'm not even sure really, but I wouldn't say that like the Activision merger caused the issue, because there was definitely these type of issues before. I would just say that, yeah, I mean, any company merger, it's like merging of two cultures, but neither culture is great. So it's just kind of like you're kind of co-signing onto their culture as well as yours.
Nice. A question from me. Since you mentioned video games and your favorite, how about gaming companies? Which one would you say that's it's like a good one to the listeners? Like I saw the thing with Activision Blizzard, and then Riot Games had its own
Right.
scandals, right, and stuff like that. And I'm kind of a doomer when it comes to gaming industry.
Yeah.
But who would you say like, yo, these guys are doing it right?
Bodeo, they are unionized. They are doing it right. And they didn't even ask, like, no one asked them. They said, hey, we're seeing other places that need to be unionized, so we're going to do it. So, hell yeah, they're great.
Nice.
Yeah, and just like these huge companies like Riot, they're also being sued by the DFEH, by the way, same company, and they just settled for 100 million. So, it's just, I don't know. I really don't know where it's just so ingrained in our culture where it doesn't matter what company you're at, it just kind of manifests. But if you're in a smaller studio, it is a little bit better. I will say, when I was really tired of the AAA companies and I did go to indie, I felt more comfortable because it was like I knew the 15 people on my team and that was it. It wasn't like, there was these huge people above me that I didn't ever see, and there wasn't that level of disconnect there. But that being said, indie isn't safe from culture issues as well. It really is about, if those people join the company, and even if like they were totally fine up until a month ago, then they started harassing this person on your team, you just need to be accountable for that kind of stuff and nip it before it becomes a huge, like, wide cultural issue. Because if you're not removing one person for doing these things, the people around that person are going to see that that's okay because you're not removing this person. So they're going to say, okay, this is acceptable. This is part of the culture here. So they're going to play along, right? Especially when you get into like the quote unquote rock star developer. When you put these developers on a pedestal and say like, oh, they're great, like look at all this stuff that they created, they're a rock star, that goes to their head. I mean, especially with a lot of like the Blizzard people named in the lawsuit, they really thought that they were untouchable, and they even had like people in human resources that were kind of just ignoring sexual harassment and discrimination claims. So it has to start with you. You have to be like an advocate, an anti-harassment, anti-everything, so that way it gets shut down as soon as possible.
Nice. One thing from the Music Guild asks you, when were you most in Discord chat? When were you most proud of Blizzard, and when have you been most disappointed in it?
This is a tricky question. I'm most proud of Blizzard for really like for the employees that genuinely want to see it do better and be how it can be. That's where I am so proud. Like the amount of solidarity under Activision Blizzard King, and even King. Like, we talked to so many employees just through Slack, and it's just this mass solidarity. Like, that's the most beautiful thing, is all of the workers coming together and saying, like, no, if one person's affected, then it should affect all of us. All of us should be advocating for this thing, because it could, it's not happening to me right now, but it can. So that was been really cool. And then, yes, King is the mobile gaming company. But yeah, that's been great. And then obviously the most disappointing thing is just Bobby Kotick continuing to choose the worst dialogue option in every quest. Yeah.
Speaking of no, well, actually no. From the gaming guild, I'll go back to them. They ask you, do you think the games journalism industry should do more to prevent critiques of the environments of productions of games and the games themselves? Mm-hmm.
Yes. I mean, it's wild, right? Like, with game journalism and journalism in general, it's very like sensationalized. They want the clicks. They want people to feel a certain way when they read the title. Like, that's the point. You're like, oh, what is this? And then you click into it. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they could do less to sensationalize or kind of, mislead people. I feel like they can also do more to kind of denounce certain behavior, and like you can report the facts and then you can say, like, this isn't okay, right? Like, we see opinion pieces all the time, and it would be better to see more people just openly talking about anti-harassment. Like, don't harass other people, let people enjoy the things that they like. And yeah, I mean, that would be nice, right?
Nice. For the chats in both Twitch and Discord, if you have any questions you want to ask Jessica, I forgot to do that like 10 minutes ago or 20 minutes. Feel free to do them. We have, what do you call it? Questions from the Feminist Guild. Let me just pick one. Thing is, they're kind of been asked before.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, here's a question. What was this is from Ambo. What was the reaction from higher ups to ABetterABK's activism? And if the reaction was bad, how did you deal with it? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the reaction in the beginning was just completely ignoring us. They were like, it doesn't exist. We don't know what these demands are. Telling press, like, we're talking to employees, just lying. So that was the first reaction. And then when it started getting more popular, more public, we heard like Mike Ybarra kind of allude to like bad press or like people online, social media. So it's like, okay, so you have heard of us. And so we just started getting louder and, doing more activism and, doing more walkouts. And it was like to a point where they couldn't ignore us. And then how did I deal with it? It was really frustrating in the beginning. It was hard to just feel like you weren't even listened to or heard, or they didn't care. There was just a huge lack of empathy on the executive suite. No one really cares about the workers. And that really was what pushed towards unionization, because it's like they're barely doing the legal minimum now. And we should be doing, ethical.
Yeah. I have a question from Twitch. Do you have any comment on the Great Resignation?
Oh, the Great Resignation. Yeah, yes. Blizzard, we were just calling it a mass exodus, because like even when I just started the company, I had gone through 2 managers and 2 leads within like a year. So it was just this huge it was weird, right? Like, we noticed people were leaving. We noticed that senior level people were leaving. Alex didn't leave until 2020, so I was there for that. And it was just like this almost sinking ship vibe. And nobody was telling anybody what was going on, but you were just seeing people leave the company. And then so when the lawsuit went public, it was just like, okay, here's what was really going on. So that felt shady. Everyone was just kind of, abandoning ship without saying anything to anyone else. And it's just weird. It like felt like a betrayal almost. But yeah, it was weird. And I noticed lately, especially with the pandemic and everything, a lot of people are realizing like, yeah, I'm not going to die for this job, like why am I suffering so hard for this company who doesn't even care about me? So I think a lot of, workers are just waking up to labor. Like their labor is valuable and they shouldn't just give it to anyone. They should give it to people who value it.
Yeah, we should do that in the sound engineering industry, to be honest. Music industry is as toxic.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Your Carl asks, you have an opinion of the IATSE, a stage and film workers union organization within the games industry, and if so, do you have the confidence that the IATSE's old failures to represent small studios have been addressed?
Yeah, so I don't know too much about the Stage and Film Workers Union. I do know that they unionized. Obviously, they had their own issues with misconduct and harassment and things like that. I don't know to their failures as much, but I will say I've grown up in a union household. My dad is in the ILWU, which is the International Longshoremen Workers Union, and they're dock workers, and a lot of people died to get those rights and healthcare and things like that. So it's something that's very close to me, and it doesn't make sense to me when workers aren't taken care of. So I kind of look to that union more just because it's something that I'm familiar with, and I would like to see. I mean, even if you don't break it into discipline, even if you break it into like entry level, mid level, and senior level, which is the way my dad's union is, the entry level workers are given the jobs that are overflow, right? So say, there's a specific project that's about to go out in like a month and they need 100, 300 people right now. So it would go to those workers when there is work. It would be the entry level workers. They will work on that project. And then, whenever that project is up, and then they would go into the pool and work somewhere else that needs those workers, right? And then, when you work a certain amount of hours, you get elevated into the mid-level. So, once you're mid-level, you kind of get first dibs on where you want to work. But you're not as steady as like if you're in a senior level. And then when you get to a specific amount of hours worked, then you move into the senior level, and then you can kind of just pick where you want to work until you retire. Obviously, it doesn't translate perfectly into the gaming industry, but it is something I'd like to see or explore. Because I don't want to shut out those indie companies. I think that, in a perfect world where people were empathetic, you wouldn't need a union, but democracy is awesome and you should always want it.
Based. Amazing. Okay. Democracy is indeed very based.
Agree.
Madlad asks, was there a metaphorical cliff where you sort of knew there was no going back? Where was that?
Yeah, the metaphorical cliff where I knew there was no going back was when someone DM'd me on Twitter and said, "Hey, you don't know me, but I'm in a server, and this server is targeting harassment towards you, and this is a Blizzard employee that's in this server." And I was like, "Cool." So then I got in touch with that person, and they kind of were sending me, horrible things that were being said about me, and this person who had worked at Blizzard for 21 years was trying to get me fired, and it was just like this insane. I couldn't even like grip with the reality of everything that was happening, because it was like targeted harassment. They were trying to get me fired, but they didn't, like, all the people that they knew in my department had already left. And it was just really, really weird to see. And so I said, okay, this is bigger than me. Like, I'm scared. I'm probably going to get retaliated against. So I need to push back even harder, and then kind of go scorched earth and not care if I get fired. So I did. I was louder and fought back, I guess.
That's extremely, extremely valiant. That's extremely brave.
Thanks.
Very based.
It was out of spite, in case anyone. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, the spite is, I think, is justified, which is nice. Another question from Twitch. What is your personal biggest desire for a change to get from all of this organizing you're doing? Mm-hmm.
So my biggest hope for all of the work that I'm putting in is that I hope that Raven Software unionizes. Like that would be, I feel like that would be a drop that would like have a ripple effect across all of ABK and even the industry as a whole. Because even companies that are unionized, I mean, we should all ascribe to the same kind of values of like we shouldn't treat contractors bad, we should be ethical in our hiring and firing practices and things like that. My hope is just more accountability with these companies that, you know, play with livelihoods and want us to do creative labor but are doing the bare minimum to even support us. So I hope that it just keeps that flame lit, and even if we don't unionize out of it, hopefully we can still get better working conditions in the end, and then I'll consider that successful.
Yeah. Kitty Cat from Discord chat asks, do you think the old guard and between of game dev will be a stumbling block on the road to unionizing Activision Blizzard?
I do. I think a lot of the old guard, there's this like, I suffered, so you should too mentality. It's so weird, and I don't understand it because all of the things I went through as a contractor, when I learned that people were still dealing with that years later, I was like, oh, hell no. You know, like, I don't want people to suffer like that. So it's just weird that a lot of the old guard, they just feel like they did their time and, you know, they suffered and grinded through the ranks and did all these things to get where they are. And so why should you have better working conditions, or why should you not have to do crunch? Because I had to do crunch. So yeah, there's this level of, I think they think that, you know, younger devs are more entitled. I think that's a big, even wider problem that spans across even the industry. Like, I think it's just a general societal problem where they think that the younger generations are entitled, but really we're just kind of like in these systems that are so rigged against us that we just can't do anything. Like, we have to push for that change because otherwise we're just drowning and not getting anywhere.
Yeah, that's the cringe boomer mentality. We have the basic, okay, worker rights mentality, which is nice. Amazing.
Yeah.
Great. Well, let me get me a question. Toot, toot. I apologize. Are you guys hearing bullets right now? I apologize. 1 second. Let me
No.
mute myself.
Bullets? Are you what?
No, don't worry about it.
Okay. Um,
I live cerca la ventana. I live in a kind of beautiful place in Chile. Okay, don't worry about it.
okay. All right.
I love my condenser mic. It doesn't short. Hardly. Nice.
I didn't hear anything, if that helps.
Nice. For the recording, okay? Which is good.
Well, if people want to throw questions in the chat, I'll read them. Someone looking into words. As someone looking to get into video game SFX, what kind of company should I apply for? Big companies, small companies, anywhere I can get a job. Good question. Have a really good portfolio and just market yourself. That's all you can really do in the industry. And, you know, if it lands somewhere big or small, it's still a W, and you should still celebrate that. I would say anywhere you can get a job, just, you know, and do, like, you know, work for what you're worth. Don't let people lowball you, because especially if you're just joining the industry, they will lowball you. So just going in and knowing your worth, and just say, here's my awesome portfolio and you want me on your team. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Sure.
That amazing. 1 second. Okay.
Mhm.
I found one. what is it? Yes, someone from the feminist guild wanted to ask you about. Actually, it's not the feminist; it's the LGBTQ guild. Wanted to ask you about like how gender can be more than an aesthetic choice in character creation. And Fallout gave you an example. New Vegas being male or female was pretty identical, but gave you a very different narrative experience with Caesar's Legion. I don't know what that is, but what do you think about that?
I actually didn't play that title, so I don't have any meaningful thing to, weigh in on about it. I would like to see more inclusivity in storylines and in character creation in general. I think that'd be great. I think that's cool. I didn't know that they had that option to like completely change, kind of the experience based on that. But that'd be cool, and even non-binary would be cool.
Yeah, of course. I think other like the idea like who will be your partner in some EA games like Dragon Age. I think they also had the thing where it's different, and like there are some MMOs which classes are just like based on gender or something like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. They sent me a word and they're like debating basically. Bro, ask me questions, bro. Okay. All right. All right. I'm doing this again where I'm thinking out loud. I apologize. Okay.
That's okay.
All right.
I can read the chat if that helps.
Oh, base.
Yeah. Okay.
Amazing.
I will be
Why
based.
I love you. Okay, go ahead.
Where can I get a turn-based copy of Diablo? I don't know. You can get a base copy of Diablo when Diablo 4 comes out. Do the vast majority of video game companies force their employees to waive their right to sue and go through mandatory arbitration for labor-related violations? Yes. Basically any company that is in operation is trying to get you to go through forced arbitration because they don't like to be sued. And, I feel it's funny too, because with everything that happened with the lawsuit, Bobby was like, we're going to waive it for sexual harassment and discrimination, which, I mean, it should have been that way anyway. I think companies have a huge PR thing where they don't want any of this stuff to get out. And so in order to proactively stop things like that from getting out, they'll do these things like, force arbitration where you can't sue the company so people can't talk about it. But yeah, I think that it's a practice that's used in a lot of companies, and they don't like to talk about the horrible things that they do, so they're going to try and silence it and by any means and, in any way. Okay, let's see. How could you guys speak out after you signed an NDA? I stopped caring. I was like, sue me. I'm tired. If talking about sexual harassment and the things that I actively experienced working for this company is going to get me sued, then I will go to court and talk about my experience, because I'm not going to accept that anymore. So, yeah, I mean, I still signed an NDA. I can't talk about the code or like anything that I touched going into the products that I worked on, but I'm going to talk about my personal experience. No one's going to stop me from doing that now. I think a lot of people are just scared because when they sign an NDA, they just assume I'm not allowed to talk about anything. And so talking to CWA and just knowing my legal rights regarding organizing, talking about working conditions, all of that being protected, it kind of makes you just, you can talk about that. You're allowed to. And I think a lot of companies use the NDA to scare people.
Nice. I'll be wrapping it up. I think Madlad asked a question.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's your last chance, chat, okay? Here you go. Person asks, did you seek out the CWA for legal advice, or did they approach you?
So when I had started organizing with others, they had already talked with CWA for legal advice, so they kind of just networking with coworkers is super important because even if, I wasn't really sure what to do. I just knew I was angry. And so people were like, let's talk to CWA, let's get legal advice. So yeah, we did kind of seek out their legal counsel, and they're very open, and anytime we do have a question, we just run it in there, and it's great because we're able to use the answers that one person asks for everyone. Because I mean, this stuff is all new to everyone that's organizing. This is like, no one's done this before. I don't think anyone's done this before, especially at such a large scale. It's so confusing, and there's just so many things and nuances, and there's just a lot with organizing, and just having that legal help is so huge to get people to help organize and realize that like they don't have to hide or not talk about certain things. They're allowed to talk about their working conditions, talk about their boss. I started flaming my boss online because it was like, I'm allowed to do that. It's, yeah, I mean, just kind of empowering people. Empowering people is super important. And having that legal representation really helps too. Ugh. Do it. I have. Thank you for bringing it up, Ali. Yeah, so I actually am working on a weekly Twitch show. It is going to be centered around labor movements in the games industry and kind of like everything that's been going on to date and everything that's going to continue going on. And it's going to kind of help the community keep up with everything that we're working on because you don't actually see all of the work that's being done, and I think it'd be really cool to highlight these things and have interviews with people that work there still or farmers, and it is something that I'm working on, so coming soon. Yes, thank you for asking. Was that your grand question? Yeah, I love it. Thank
Yes.
you.
Nice.
Don't forget to subscribe, click that little bell, turn your notifications on.
Yes.
No, but please follow my socials. I am kind of unhinged on main, but you can follow ABetterABK if you just want to get updates on the movement and everything that's going on there. And also follow GWA. GWA is our Game Workers Alliance, which is our Raven Studio QA that is going to be hopefully unionizing soon. We filed a petition with the National Labor Relations Board to hold a vote or argue for our bargaining unit. So stay tuned there. And yeah, thank you so much for having me and letting me use your platform to talk.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was wonderful to have you. If you guys have missed it, or missed a parts of the AMA, I'm gonna upload it on YouTube for more people to see, which is based. Thank you again, Jessica. It was a huge pleasure. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes. Have a wonderful night. Okay.
You too.
And have every audience and everywhere, Twitch and Discord and YouTube in the future. I hope you guys have a wonderful night or a day or whatever. Love your faces. Yeah. See you. Bye.